Welcome everyone. In a few moments, we will start the presentation. While you are settling in, say hi in the chat box. We'd love to hear where everyone is joining us from. I want to take this opportunity to remind everyone that this week-long program is in partnership with the Cumberland County Improvement Authority. This virtual event features visits from local artists with live and pre-recorded programming from environmentally minded organizations and a daily kids eco camp each morning. Please join us tomorrow on Thursday, August 20th at 10 a.m. for Kids Eco Camp, The Magic of Recycling with magician Bill Kerwood, and at 6 p.m. for How to Spot Butterflies with Pat Sutton, presented by CU Maurice River. There's still time to register, and the link will be in the chat box below. And today we are joined by Gary Schempp, local beekeeper and owner of Busy Bees NJ. He will be giving an educational presentation about bees, beekeeping, and honey, but more on that in a few moments. Before we get started, we want to make sure that you have a comfortable viewing experience. To that end, it is my pleasure to introduce Marcy Peterson, who will be handling all of our technical needs throughout the program. Marcy has been with WheatonArts since 1994. She is the IT director, and her undergraduate and graduate studies were in fine art, e-business, marketing, and public relations. Marcy, can you provide us with some tech tips for this webinar?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you for being here, Gary, with us. We're looking forward to the presentation. I want to remind everyone that this webinar is through a Zoom webinar. So you'll see the panelists, but they won't see you. You can ask the speaker and our host, Sarah, questions through the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen if you have a PC. It may be at the top if you have a tablet. You click on that icon and you'll be able to type in your question. You can also like questions that other attendees put in there, and then you help us identify which the most popular ones are. I'll be monitoring the chat box throughout this program for your technical and general questions, and you can follow along for links for additional resources, and you can text other attendees. So if you see a friend, say hi. Should you lose connection for any reason, I don't want you to worry. Simply close out your open windows, your Zoom windows, and then go back to that original email, and you'll be able to click on there and join again. Anytime that happens, you can join again. This session is being recorded, but only the host and the speaker will be recorded. And you will be able to, we'll be able to provide that recording to you at a later time. One last tip for you is regarding customizing your experience. There is a small green icon in the upper left corner of your screen. If you click on that, you'll see a variety of choices. I don't want you to explore that now or take away from your experience here, but if you would like to change the font on your chat so it's easier to see, what you can do is click on that icon, click on the accessibility tab, and then there you'll see the adjustment for that icon. Now, a couple more things before we get started into our program, and that is that I wanted you to know that after you see this free program provided to you from WheatonArts and our partner CCIA, that you know that there are 3 other ways that you can support WheatonArts. One's membership, one's donations, and the other is shopping at WheatonArts.org. You can, I failed to mention that you can also email Rhodey Barron, rbarron@wheatonarts.org to find out more ways to support WheatonArts. Now, I'm not going to go through all the things on this list of the benefits of being a member, but I will tell you that members get it all, and you can get a gift membership for someone else. So family and friends, and share the joy of WheatonArts with family and friends. And you can find out more about Wheaton members at our website, WheatonArts.org. This month, for the rest of the month, there is a 15% off discount of our entire store. So you can go to shop.wheatonarts.org and explore. And also, This week we are carrying the Busy Bee New Jersey honey with an expanded selection. So that can be found in the cart by typing Busy Bee in the search bar. That's BUSY and then a space, BEES, just Busy Bees in the search, and that'll filter your search and you'll be able to see the full selection and again purchase right online. We'll also be talking about other ways to purchase Gary's honey, and that is his honor location and his website and so forth as we go along. But I also wanted to mention that our partners, Cumberland County Improvement Authority, have provided for you a complimentary bag, an eco shopping bag that will come with each order through August. So whether you use curbside pickup or whether you get your order shipped, you're going to get a free eco bag. So back to the full program, and in this time I want to introduce Sarah Lacey. Sarah is new to WheatonArts and we're really glad to have her. Sarah's the special events coordinator at WheatonArts. She recently began this role in February of 2020. So she's a new face around our campus. Sarah's worked as an event coordinator and sales manager previously at Willow Creek Winery in Cape May and for the Noyes Museum of Art in Oceanville. She's excited to combine her love of art with her background in event planning at WheatonArts. She received her Bachelor of Fine Arts with a concentration on printmaking from Stockton University. And now over to you, Sarah, to get us started.
Thanks for your introduction, Marcy. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today during this program, during which we'll hear from Gary Schempp, owner and beekeeper of Busy Bees NJ. In 2007, Gary G. Schempp took an interest in the complex world of bees and beekeeping. Having owned a pest control company for 30 years, Gary shifted gears from killing bugs to saving bees. His love for his work with bees inspired Gary to sell his pest control company to pursue his passion project of saving as many bees as possible. Shortly after that, Busy Bees NJ was born. Gary has not only worked in Cape May County rescuing and relocating hives, but has also traveled internationally to continue his beekeeping education and to inform others. Busy Bees NJ Honey can be found in locations throughout South Jersey at their honor shop at 80 South Delsey Drive, Cape May Courthouse, or on their website. We are also happy to announce that we are carrying Gary's honey now in the general store. Welcome, Gary. It's good to have you on.
Hi, Sarah. Good morning. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Marcy and WheatonArts for having put this program together. This is so exciting. It's going to be it's going to be really a fun hour with a lot of information. There'll be time for people to ask questions. And Sarah, if you have any questions, feel free to bring them up because I'm sure that some of the folks that are participating here might have the same questions.
Okay, sounds good.
Will facilitate us. We're going to talk about honeybees. We're going to talk about pollination. We're going to start with honeybee rescue. And we're going to start with the video in Cape May that we took of just one of our many honeybee rescue jobs where we've removed honeybees from the soffit of a structure and hide them up into a proper honeybee hive, relocated them to, in this case, our apiary on our Busy Bees honey farm. I have a 20-acre farm in Cape May Courthouse area, but on many occasions, we put them on other local farms as well so they can pollinate and pollinate crops, very important to our food supply, and also continue to create beautiful honey for us and for our sales.
Okay,
so we can start with this video, and it'll show taking some things apart and getting into where the bees are, and then I'll do some explaining when it's done.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, we're in Cape May,
we're good to go.
August in 2016, and we're doing a honeybee removal and relocation in the second story roof area of a home. We have this board already loosened up, so I'm going to take this out so you can see the bees and how they are in the wall, in the soffit area of this roof. Okay, so we're going to remove the comb. The bees are all, I'll touch this here, the bees will move out. You can see the larvae, cap brood all in there. I'm not sure how far this goes back yet, but we'll start removing all this comb, and we'll hive it up in a beehive in frames with rubber bands and take it back to our apiary, and they can continue pollinating and doing their thing. And they'll stuff this, clean it out real good, clean it and stuff it with insulation, and seal everything up. Put some new wood on the surface here, and keep new bees and other insects.
Gary, just a moment. I'm going to restart the share because we're getting a little bit of a complaint that it was not playing well. And if you'll just give me a second here, we'll restart. Nope,
Sure.
That's good to go. And I'll take it from the middle, just giving it.
We have this board already loosened up, so I'm going to take this out so you can see the bees and how they are in the wall, in the soffit area of this roof. Okay, so we're going to remove the comb. The bees are all, I'll touch this here, the bees will move out. You can see the larvae, cap brood all in there. I'm not sure how far this goes back yet, but we'll start removing all this comb, and we'll hive it up in a beehive in frames with rubber bands and take it back to our apiary, and they can continue pollinating and doing their thing. And they'll stuff this, clean it out real good, clean it and stuff it with insulation, and seal everything up. Put some new wood on the surface here, and keep new bees and other insects from reinfesting. So we're good to go. So we're going to get started. So some of our tools, our truck, a hot muggy day in Cape May. Let's go.
What'd you think about that, Sarah?
I loved when you tap on the honeycomb and then all the bees disperse and the honeycomb pops up. I think that's so cool.
Yeah,
But
isn't that amazing?
yeah,
A
I
lot of
have,
people ask, aren't you getting stung? And yeah, honeybees sting. In fact, it's interesting to note that male bees do not have stingers, but the females do. And they do sting to protect their hive. In our area, we have European honeybees, not Africanized honeybees. And generally, when we inspect our beehives, we use a light smoke to mask their pheromones and their communicative skills. But we don't like to use smoke around structures because obviously we don't want to take any chances on causing a fire with sparks or flame. So we have managed to do most of our work ungloved and unveiled, and actually get right into the hive and start doing our work. The honeycomb that you see there, a lot of people ask, well, where did that honeycomb come from? Our bees have wax glands, and they create all that from scratch. It really is amazing. They'll not only use it for their nectar storage that they turn into honey, but the queen also uses it to lay her eggs, and that's where they raise their baby bees. Baby bees are called brood. The next slide is going to show us on the ground where we've now transferred all that organic material, the honeybees with a low pressure bee vac that we use. We have several of those for different applications, onto the ground with the comb, the honey, the pollen, the nectar, the bees, get it all on the ground through a pulley system that we've created, and buckets and ladders and so forth. And then we hive it up into a proper beehive where we can transfer it to our farm, our apiary. We have a 20-acre apiary in Cape May Courthouse area, or to other local farms where they can continue to pollinate and manufacture honey and be a part of our natural world. So there's a video here The audio is not that great, so I'm just going to explain what we're doing as you're watching the video play. So we're on the ground, and we have taken that comb that I was pointing to up in the soffit area. That's wax comb. That's where all the cells are, and there's eggs and brood, which remember are baby bees, in that comb. And we've cut it out now to sizes that will fit into a frame. We're rubber banding it in place, and that will be installed into that box right next to it, which is called a beehive. And so we'll have then, after an hour or so, have relocated or repositioned all that comb, or most of that comb that was up in that soffit area, to that beehive, which will then be transferred back to the apiary where they can continue doing their work. Isn't that amazing, Sarah?
Yeah. Now, where are the bees right now? I just see the honeycomb.
Okay, very good question. So there's two parts of this operation. One is to collect the honeycomb and the brood comb, and to install it in those boxes as we're seeing. The other part is to get a large majority of the bees out of the way so we can do this work. And we do that with a low pressure honeybee vacuum that we've built, so that it doesn't hurt the bees. We can contain them into another beehive. You know, when you have a vacuum cleaner, there's usually a canister.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we created or built a vacuum system where actually it goes through a beehive. So the beehive itself, the box, is actually like the canister of a vacuum. So when we suck up the bees with this low pressure bee vacuum, they're actually being repositioned in their permanent new home. So they don't have to get handled 2 or 3 times. Okay, it works very well. We take that box as well as the brood comb box back to our apiary. We combine those boxes, and then what we've done is essentially remove the bees from the structure, rehive them, and reposition them in an apiary where we can feed them for a couple of weeks until they find new nectar sources and get acclimated to their new home, their new area. And the homeowner's happy because the bees have been removed. They don't have to worry about honey dripping through their walls or ceiling. And the bees are happy because that's really all they want, is to have a nice new home, a nice area to raise their family, and to collect nectar and store honey, and survive and prosper. So we're all looking for the same thing, and this creates a win-win-win situation for everybody, including the bees.
Yeah, if I was a bee, I think I'd rather
So,
live on a hive than inside someone's wall.
well, in a hive, they're going to be taken care of. Unfortunately, a lot of folks don't realize that it's illegal to kill honeybees in the state of New Jersey and many other states. And a lot of people are not knowledgeable of honeybees. So they might spray them with a can of Raid or something. And bees are easy to kill. You can kill bees and other pollinators easily with a number of different kind of insecticides, even Raid out of a can. But if that happens, then you don't have the honeybees to take care of all that organic material. So once the honeybees are compromised, or unfortunately if you kill them off, then all the honey, the nectar, the pollen, the comb, that all is going to rot and ferment in the wall or the soffit of the house and cause huge problems. So we always want to do is keep honeybees healthy. If they're somewhere where they're not supposed to be, keep them healthy until we can get someone knowledgeable of honeybees out there to remove them properly and carefully and give them a new home, and then clean out the soffit area or the wall area or the ceiling area or wherever the bees were, so that you don't have a problem with reinfestation or other types of insects moving in that cause other problems. So there's a lot of expertise required or needed, and 30 years of pest control experience sort of got me set up for this. But like you mentioned in your initial introduction of myself, that we enjoy raising honeybees a lot more than killing bugs. So we really enjoy our work, and we like to keep, maintaining a presence here.
Yeah,
So we
totally.
can go now to the next portion of the presentation. And this slide is going to show you one of our 350 beech plum trees on our farm. And this is a honeybee, one of our honeybees that's actually collecting nectar from one particular flower. Some of our viewers that have gardens and are familiar with insects and pollinators might have noticed bees, or particularly honeybees, or even sometimes bumblebees, hovering around the flower and wondering why they're doing that. Well, interesting enough, the flowers that have given up their nectar to previous pollinators and flowers that still have their nectar have different electrical charges, and bees can sense that. So when you see bees hovering over a flower, they're sensing the electrical charge to determine whether there's nectar left in the flower or not, or whether it was taken away by a previous pollinator, because they only have 30 to 45 days of a life cycle. They have a short time to do a lot of work. So they can't, nature had designed it so they don't have a lot of time to waste hovering and trying to find nectar. So they can just buzz around, so to speak, and determine the electrical charges and only land on flowers that have nectar to give up. Isn't that amazing, Sarah?
Yeah, it is. Now, the other thing that I know that you mentioned to me before was that, like, buzzing is a really good word to use as a verb, because it's actually coming from their wings. I thought it was coming from their mouths.
Yes. Yeah, actually the buzzing sound comes from their wings. They actually beat their wings up to 12,000 times per minute. If you folks look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see some information about that. 12,000 times per minute, and that's what creates the buzzing sound. Yeah, so bees create that buzzing sound. It's also important to note that honeybees are the only insect on the planet that produce food for mankind. Now, mankind in many other countries, not so much in the Western Hemisphere, but in Eastern countries, a lot of folks rely on insects and larvae and so forth for a protein source. Okay, honeybees are the only insect that actually creates a food for people. So they create honey, we eat honey. So although we eat a lot of different insects and their larvae, honeybees are the only ones that actually make food for us. I always found that to be really fascinating.
That is.
And of all the 4,400 different species of bees there are in North America, and 20,000 species of bees that there are around the world, I always find it so fascinating to note that honeybees are not indigenous to North America. Our forefathers brought them over from Europe. When the pilgrims came over hundreds of years ago, and they brought their fruits and their vegetables and their gardens, they also brought their honeybees, so they would have sweeteners. They would have honey. And what they've noticed was the more bees they brought over, the better their fruits and vegetables performed. So they brought more over. And that's how we got to have honeybees introduced in our country, and why we have honeybees here today. And fortunately, we have over 2 million honeybee hives in the country, and many beekeepers to help support that industry, because bees are responsible for over 1/3 of the food on our tables. That's how much they pollinate for us. Without bees, we'd be in big trouble. So we need to protect our pollinators. We need to protect our bees. We need to keep educating folks how important nature is to us for our sustainability. Isn't that amazing, Sarah?
Yeah, that is.
And you know, we showed a picture of our honey products in the beginning of the presentation that are available not only at our honor system or honey shop at the location that we have, that is address that'll come up later to show that, but also at the Wheaton Village store. And it's unbelievable to think that it takes over 2 million flower visits to make 1 pound of honey. That's your general size honey jar. 1,600 round trips to produce an ounce of honey. And that bees can travel up to a 5-mile radius. You know, when we want a cup of coffee, we go to the kitchen or we go to the local coffee shop. Bees having flowers available, going to go out in the yard, they're going to go to the local flowers. But if there aren't any, they can go up to 5 miles in a radius. That's over 70 square miles to forage for nectar and water and pollen. So you have a huge area.
It's labor intensive.
In fact, another amazing fact, you can see that on here too, is that to make 1 pound of honey, bees will collectively fly up to 55,000 flight miles. Now, the circumference of the Earth is only 24,000 miles. So imagine twice around the circumference of the Earth to make what's in a 1 pound jar of honey. I just find that like totally amazing. So bees have 35, 45 days in a life cycle to do a lot of work. So we have to give them a lot of credit. It's really amazing. Okay, we probably could move on to some more bee facts that are going to be on our next slide. And it's important to note that honeybee workers, basically almost entirely females in the honeybee hive. Only a small fraction are males, the drones that we call them. Okay, they'll visit up to 2,000 flowers on a good day. And a strong hive will visit almost 250,000 flowers per day to keep everything working correctly. And they communicate by each other like a lot of animals do with a smell, insect smells called pheromones, chemical smells. And these chemical smells tell them, you know, that's how they communicate. Some of our viewers might have seen on TV or watching bee videos where the beekeeper has used like a smoker, where there's smoke coming out and they smoke the hive gently. And a lot of folks, why are they doing that? And it's for the most part, we feel that it masks the insect's communicative skills. It masks their pheromones. So it kind of confuses them and they hunker down, and it calms them, so to speak. And we can then get into a hive and doing a proper inspection to make sure it's queen right, everything is working correctly, see if there's any particular needs that the bees have that we can supply or give them to keep everything working smoothly inside a beehive. So that's what a smoker would do, and that's how bees communicate. Also with a dance called a waggle dance. Now, I don't have a video of a waggle dance, but if the folks viewing today, after our presentation is over, would like to go onto YouTube and just type in waggle dance or maybe waggle dance by honeybees, you will find it amazing how bees will communicate by a dance that they have, and the other bees will pick up the communicative skills, and they will look at this dance that this one bee is performing, and will show them that they're like the GPS direction to a nectar source, a water source, or a pollen source that they will fly out, all based on the sun, on UV radiation, on the light, and on other aspects of nature of how to find these resources. And then that's basically how, you know, we think we're all so smart with our iPhones, with our GPS. Well, bees have had this for hundreds of thousands of years, probably millions of years. So bees are just really fascinating. All our next slide, if you see the orange sacs on the honeybee's legs in the previous slide, they're pollen sacs. Bees will fly from flower to flower. They will collect pollen and nectar, and they will take it back to the hive, and that's the resources. Honey is carbohydrate. Pollen is protein, high in amino acids. And honeybees need both, just like we do. You know, there's over almost 250,000 beekeepers in the United States. And it's a huge industry, $8 to $10 billion a year.
That's cool.
And the queen bee will lay over 2,000 eggs a day. Okay, an average of one every 45 seconds. Yeah, amazing. Yeah. And so there'll be honeybees will, you know, when we rub our hands together, we create heat. Well, honeybees vibrate their wing muscles and create heat in the hive and keep it around 95 degrees, a perfect temperature for raising baby bees. Yeah.
That's cute.
Sarah, let's stop here for a minute. Did you have any questions so far?
I had a question about the pollen. Now, I know that you sell the pollen, and what's good to do with that? Is that, do you eat it on your own, or do you put it in something?
Okay. Another good, you got all these good questions. It's great. So what I have found is I mix it with yogurt in the morning because I'm really busy. Time is of the essence. I like a little yogurt in the morning with my before or after my coffee. So I'll mix a level teaspoon of pollen in my yogurt. It mixes up well. It has kind of an earthy, maybe like a sweet wheat germ or earthy taste, but I like it in yogurt. It gives me an energy boost. It helps me start my day. A lot of my customers that have more time to make smoothies or shakes will put a level teaspoon in their smoothie or shake. That's a serving size. Okay? You start out small with a new supplement in your diet, and then you can consume it like that. We also have a bottle on our kitchen table where we can add a little bit to our garden salad in the evening. So you can add a little more pollen to your diet that way. And that'll supply a little more protein, a little more, and some more amino acids to your diet. But you could also, our viewers can Google benefits of raw bee pollen, and you can learn a lot more about it there and see a lot of other benefits of raw bee pollen. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, it did. Let's see.
Great.
So I have a question
actually
we'll play in here too. I have one more. I have one from Noelle Lampy. And does eating local honey help with allergies?
Oh, that's the question I was waiting for.
Perfect. Thanks, Noelle.
Yeah, that's great. We do quite a few farmers markets every week during the summer season, and there's not one that doesn't go by where we don't have 4 or 5 folks asking about local allergies. When I grew up on a farm, I always had allergies in the spring. There was sneezing, there were itchy eyes, there was a sore throat. It was always horrible. And I never liked taking drugs or antihistamines or sprays. So I would deal with it as much as I could. 15 years ago or so, when I started with beekeeping and we started consuming our own honey, I noticed that my allergies had greatly subsided, and then eventually the allergy problems were alleviated completely. I was never quite sure about that, but when I had a personal experience with it, I became a true believer. Since then, I used to say we've had hundreds of customers. Now we have many more than hundreds of customers that swear by consuming local honey has alleviated or completely gotten rid of their allergy problems that are related to pollen problems, not other types of allergies like cat allergies or something like, but allergies that come from weed pollens, tree pollens, and other types of vegetative pollens. So for me, it has worked for many a long list of our customers has worked. And it's important to note that honey, that the area, it's, people say local, but local really has to be defined. When you look at the internet, you might find the same, you know, a 5-mile radius or a 50-mile radius or something like that. And you really can't go by miles, because what if it's a few miles more, if a few miles less? Does it work or it doesn't work? Okay, really, it's the same vegetative zone. That's what's important when you're talking about allergies. The same type of weeds, the same type of trees, pine trees, cedar trees, oak trees, ragweed, dandelions, the same type of vegetation that you have in your area. So we're in New Jersey, mid-Atlantic states. You don't, I have sometimes at a farmer's market, folks will say, well, is it from our neighborhood? No, it doesn't have to be from the same zip code. Okay, same vegetative zone is a much better explanation for the proximity of where the honey is coming from. Okay, hopefully that answers your viewer's question.
I think it did. Okay.
Were
Should we
there
go
any
on to the
more?
next one? I have one actually. Here's one that says, does bee pollen have an expiration date, and is it okay for children to consume?
Okay, boy, your viewers have really good questions. Okay, so it doesn't really have, honey or bee pollen doesn't really have an expiration date. In fact, dropping back to honey for a moment, honey doesn't go bad or expire, okay? In fact, they found it in King Tut's tomb in 1922 when they opened it, and there was honey in there. Honey was as precious as gold, and it was still edible, okay? So it lasts for at least 4,500 years, okay?
Okay.
Pollen can get moldy if it's left open or in a damp area. So it's important to keep the lid on tight on a jar of pollen or a container of pollen, okay? And it'll even be beneficial if it's kept cool, such as like in a refrigerator, okay? It would be better to be kept cool, because it can mold up if it's just like a lot of your other condiments or spices or other things in your kitchen. It needs to be kept dry, it needs to be kept cool, and it will last longer.
Okay.
Okay, hopefully that answered your viewer's question.
I think so. Should we go into the next
And
slide?
the other part of that question, if I remember correctly, was, is it okay for a child? I like to stay away from that answer. It's always good to check with your doctor, your pediatrician, and ask them first, whenever you're adding a new food or supplement to you know, a child's diet or even your own diet. It's always good to do research and to find out and then go slowly. Even if you decide that something seems to be safe and proper, always start out with a new supplement with a small dose or a small amount. So even for an adult, even though a level teaspoon is a serving size of pollen, although a level tablespoon is a serving size of honey for an adult, it's always important to start small. So we were selling honey to a customer, and they wanted to incorporate pollen, bee pollen into their diet. We would say start out maybe with a 1/4 teaspoon for a number of days, and then maybe 1/2 of a teaspoon, and make sure you feel good and everything is fine. Move forwards until you work your way up to a level teaspoon. And like everything else, you don't overdo it. You don't, if a level teaspoon is the serving size, then that's the serving size. You don't go to a tablespoon. And you can mix it with foods, you can mix it with yogurt, smoothie or shake, or on a garden salad, as I mentioned. Does that make sense, Sarah?
Yep. Moderation's always key.
I love that. Moderation is the key. Okay.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions, or should we move forwards?
I think we're good. Ooh, swarms.
Okay, so this is a swarm. Some of our viewers may have had the good fortune, or some people might have think the bad fortune, I think it's a good fortune, to see a honeybee swarm. And they ask, why are bees going crazy like that? Why are they swarming? Well, because their original home, whether it's in a hollow in a tree or in a beehive or maybe in the soffit of a house that we all saw in the beginning of the presentation, as the queen is laying between 2 or 3,000 eggs a day, you can imagine that the colony can quickly grow when times are going well. So that cavity can fill up with honeybees to the point where they don't all fit anymore, and half of them have to move on. So half of them will stay with a new queen that they will, which is probably a new class, a new presentation, and another talk. We could be here for hours. But the old queen, the normal queen, the regular queen, will leave with half of the colony and find a new home. And that's how they grow. That's how they split their hives. So what's happened here in this video that we're going to watch is we have quite a few beehives on our property, and one of them swarmed, which means that half of them left with the original queen. The other half stayed in the colony to keep it growing with a new queen that they're creating. And now they're resting on the base of one of our beech plum trees. They're resting there while they send out scouts. And the scouts are female bees that will look for a new cavity, a new home, that they will come back and do a waggle dance. We talked about that briefly. And that waggle dance will tell all these bees on this tree stump here where the new home is. And then when they all got it, they will all fly off. It's like a big swarm, like a big helicopter, and it's quite loud actually. And they will all follow their directions to their new home. And their new home might be a hollow in a tree somewhere. It might be in a vacated beehive on a beekeeper's apiary that maybe got emptied out somehow or sitting there vacant. Or it could be into a wall in a viewer's home where perhaps the cable person that hooked up a cable into the child's bedroom on the second floor didn't maybe caulk around the hole that he made for the cable to go in. And when the scout bee found that, they went into the hole and said, "This is the perfect size." If you remember, our viewers remember the Three Bears story when we were all kids. You know, if it's too big, then you have to worry about predators too much. If it's too small, you gotta find a new home too quick. So it needs to be just the right size cavity. So when the bees come back and they have that location, they will all follow the directions to the new location and move into their new home. Now, to move forwards here, before that were to happen, we would like to collect these bees and we would like to give them a new home so we could kind of get our bees back. So now one beehive is becoming two beehives, but we're not losing one to a hollow in a tree or the neighbor's house. We're actually able to rehive this into one of our own bee boxes, put on our farm, and nature helped us go from having the one hive into having two hives. So we can now move forwards to actually watching part of this process with our video. Now we're going to play the video.
I see a lot of pollen. I see a few drones. I see a lot of healthy bees. See all the yellow pollen on the pollen legs, pollen sacs. So even though they're swarming, they're bringing in resources. So let's see how we make out. Okay, 1, 2, 3. There's 90% of them on there. Let's get these into this hive box right here. Okay, so I would say between 25 and 30,000 bees were on this beach plum tree, and we have now got them 98% into this hive box right here. There's just a few on the outside, a few down here, and I never did see the queen. I'm sure she's in a clump in there, but what I'm doing now is I'm just scouting around to see if make sure there's not a queen. The queen's not hanging out here somewhere, and I don't see her. So I feel confident that we got her in the box. So I'm gonna just open this up right now and show you what we got. So we have put our top cover aside. And you can feel the heat coming out of this. It's generating a lot of heat. Got a lot of bees. And tomorrow, next day I go through this. Hopefully I'll be able to see the frame and see the queen on one of these frames. They got nice comb to work with, nice new comb that we put in there for them. So we're gonna close them up now, leave them alone. And we're gonna feed them. Once we've got a feeder up here ready, it's already filled. Gonna close them up like this. Hopefully they stay. Put our top cover on. We'll put a brick on that afterwards.
Okay, so I think that we get the idea that we're collecting the swarm from that tree. And this, I always love watching this video because it shows that it's not always so easy to collect a swarm in precarious situations. When they're hanging onto a branch, we can shake the branch and drop them right into a box. If they're on the side of a building or side of something, we can kind of like scrape them down into a box. But in this case, they're all wrapped around the base of a tree. So what we did is we put these plastic foundation frames around the bottom. My idea was, as you saw in the video, to knock the tree with my palms and my hands and shake all the bees down on these plastic foundation frames so that I could pick them up and drop them into a beehive. And that's how we got them there. And then the beehive, no doubt the queen was in that cluster, and then she will send out pheromones, and all the other bees that are not in the box, so around that area, will smell her pheromones and head towards the box. So we left that box there for a little while, and then we came back and all the bees were in the beehive. And then we were able to relocate that and feed them for a while and have a new bee. We were able to retrieve our bees, basically, and have gotten 2 bees out of 1, and everybody's happy. And the bees have a nice new home, and they could keep growing and doing their thing. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is. I have 2 questions about the video. So one's from Joy Gross. Gary, did you smoke the bees before doing the video so you didn't get stung?
Oh, actually, your viewers have really good questions. Thank you very much for asking that. Actually, honey, I did not. Okay, honeybees in a swarm mode. If you noticed, I didn't gear up. There was no gloves on. I didn't have a veil on. Honeybees in a swarm mode usually do not sting. Okay, honeybees normally sting when they're protecting their beehive. Okay, when they're out and on a swarm, or they're out in your flowers, they're out pollinating. They're not there protecting their hive, so they're not in sting mode. Remember that honeybees, as well as other bees, will die when they sting you. So they really don't want to die for no reason. Okay, so no, there's no smoke, there's no veil. Bare hands. I recall not having 1 sting in this entire operation, which I can say is usually the case for all my swarm collections.
It's good odds.
It still amazes me.
And yeah. I guess they're too busy.
In fact, sometimes just to impress a homeowner, besides myself, if there's a clump of bees that may look like a basketball or soccer ball that's hanging down from a branch of an ornamental tree, where I would put a beehive underneath of it. Prior to shaking the branch vigorously and dropping all the bees into the box, I could take my fingers in my hand and just really slowly push it into the clump of honeybees, almost like reaching into a bowl of Jello, and reach all the way in, and you can feel how hot it is in the center of the cluster of bees. It is really amazing. And then pull my hand out slowly and not getting stung, have all the bees all over my hand, show the homeowner, and they're like totally fascinated. It's kind of like a superhero event. You feel great, you're not hurting anything. Take my hand, the bees fling off, and then I continue collecting the bees, put them in a hive, giving the bees a new home, giving them some feed for a few days or longer till they get acclimated in their new environment. So everybody's happy. And we save the bees, and they can keep pollinating and doing their thing. And then the homeowner doesn't have to worry about a clump of bees in their yard. So everybody's happy.
I have one more question, and actually this is the same thing that came to mind for me. Catherine Stemple asked, how do you identify a queen?
Okay, another good question. So 99 point something of all the bees in a honeybee colony are females, okay? There's only a small fraction that are drones. The honeybee, the drones and the worker bees and the queens, all three, they're the three individuals in the hive. They'll have a different shape, different size. The queen bee can be seen more easily by a beekeeper or somebody that's familiar with beekeeping or looking at honeybees. She's longer. She has a larger and more pronounced abdomen, because remember, she can lay between 1,000 and 3,000 eggs a day over the course of her lifetime. Queen bee can live between 3 and 5 years, okay? Active in not the wintertime, but most other parts of the year, she's laying eggs. So she has a different shape, more of a elongated missile type shape, as opposed to a worker bee that's more rounded. A drone bee, which your viewer didn't ask, but just for other viewers that might have a question about what does a drone bee look like, and we should have some pictures here, which I don't think that we do. I apologize for that. A drone bee will have really large eyes. If you remember one of our favorite old TV shows, MASH. I remember the MASH helicopters had the big glass bubble in the front. Okay, well, drone bees have those great big round bubbly eyes, and that's so that when they're trying to mate with a queen bee, a new virgin queen bee on her virgin mating flight, they need to have like 360 vision looking all around, and have to have these great big eyes because they mate in flight. Okay, so drone bees are really easy to point out with these big eyes in a different shape. But the queen bee is elongated, longer, and a large abdomen. So for a beekeeper, we can notice her if we're looking for her, but in many cases, when we're doing a hive inspection, we don't necessarily see or find the queen. We don't really need to. We don't want to spend hours inspecting the hive. We want to get in there, make sure it's queen right, it's healthy, and how we do that is we look for the proper smell, the proper coloration, and we look for healthy larvae, which is pearly white larvae, and we look for eggs. If we have eggs and young larvae, we have a queen. We can close it up and feel rest assured everything is good. Hopefully that answered it's a long answer to your viewer's question, but yet she has a different shape.
Okay, I think it did.
Yeah.
Should we go to the next slide?
Yeah, we could do that. Let's move on. Okay, this is what we just talked about, doing a hive inspection. So every so often, it changes with the season. once every couple weeks or so, could be more or less, we'll go through our beehives and we'll make sure they're queen right, that there's no disease, that their eggs and larvae and everything is in order. And if it's not, then we need to take the necessary steps in order to give the bees what they need in order to keep everything moving in, moving in the right direction. Yep.
Okay.
So we can move on, or we could play this video actually. I think this is a video.
This is a great frame. This shows a lot of things. This shows some glistening down in the cells, which is newly collected nectar. It shows up here, they're just starting to cap some and make honey. But for the most part, they're using this frame for their young, for their brood. All this brown cottony material is wax coating that the bees made and put over top of the larvae. And they're in a pupal stage. Honeybees have complete metamorphosis like a butterfly, and they are now transforming into adult bees in the pupal cell that is underneath the casing. You can see in there the white glistening. You see the white, pearly white larvae. That's what you want your larvae to look like. Between 3 and 7 days, you have larvae, and healthy larvae is pure white. And there's cap brood, there's eggs, there's larvae, so we're good to go. So this is all queens in there somewhere. We're not going to root around anymore, disturb them too much. We're just put all this back carefully, just like that, like that. Slide all these over, make room for the last one.
Okay, so that was just a brief explanation or viewing of a honeybee inspection. You notice I have just the blue nitrile gloves on there. They're a lot easier to work with than bee gloves. It's easier to maneuver, it protects your hands, and I don't really, our bees have been very gentle with a little light smoke and masks their pheromones, as we talked about earlier. And in this particular day, and the temperature range and the bees were calm, I didn't need to wear a veil. There are times when the bees are more aggressive. It might be on a really hot day or so forth, where you need to veil up and put a hood on because you'll be getting like numerous bee stings. This might be a good point, a good spot to point out that if our viewers were ever to get a honeybee sting or a bee sting, bee stings have a barbed stinger, so it kind of sticks in you, and then when the bee flies away, the stinger pulls out, and of course the bee is going to go off and die somewhere because it's pulled out of its abdominal area. But if you take your fingernail and you just get the bee stinger out real quick, it's very small, okay, it's maybe the size of a sesame seed or smaller. Get the stinger out real quick, you can avoid it pumping all the venom into you. So if you do it right away, you might only get like 10% of the venom. So being a beekeeper, people say, well, do you ever get stung? And I'll normally say, well, today or this week, of course. If you're a painter, you get paint on you. If you're a beekeeper, you get bee sting. Okay, but you get the stinger out as quick as possible. And fortunately for me, I'm not allergic. It's not really a problem. I don't swell up. It goes away. The feeling goes really pretty quick. And people say, well, does it hurt? Well, yeah, you still feel it. You never get to the point where you don't feel a bee sting, but it's like, it's not a big deal. So you know, it's part of your work, part of what you do. So of course, when a lot of our inspections, a lot of our bee work is summertime. Okay, it's 80 degrees, it's 90 degrees, it might be 100 degrees, or it might be 90% humidity. It's hot, and when you put a veil on and you have glasses on and you're perspiring, it's very difficult to do this type of work. So as much as I can work without a veil and without all the protective equipment, I do. There are cases where the bees are a little more aggressive, then you need to veil up. Yeah.
Okay.
Was there any more questions about this segment?
I had one question on bee pollen, and it is, if a person has pollen allergies, like ragweed, for example, will bee pollen be a problem?
It hasn't been for all the folks that I have talked to, okay? I'm not really sure why that is, but there seems to be like no reaction to the pollen that's consumed as opposed to the pollen that's breathed, that you breathe in. Yeah,
Okay.
now that may not be true for everybody. In fact, people, there's probably a good good spot to mention that, you know, anyone can be allergic to anything. So that's why, remember, I have mentioned, always, whenever you add a new supplement to your diet, do something new, always start out small. Start out with little test doses. Make sure you're okay with things before you just go whole hog. Yeah, does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Okay, great. I have my notes here. I wanted to mention that honeybees, this is amazing. I always get fascinated. Every time I read this, I get the chills. Honeybees use the most complex symbolic language of any animal on Earth outside of the primate family. And that's the waggle dance we were talking about. So I really encourage your viewers to, we only have an hour here, so we really can't show everything, but your viewers can go on YouTube or Google and click on waggle dance, W-A-G-G-L-E, waggle dance of honeybees, and look and click the little tabs up top. We'll have images, information, news, and videos. And you can click on a video of the waggle dance, and you'll find it really amazing how bees have that most advanced symbolic language of any animal on Earth outside of the primate family. Isn't that fascinating?
It really is.
Okay.
Okay, well,
So we can probably move on a little bit. So what can you do to promote beekeeping? What can you do to help honeybees, other types of bees, and pollinators? All kinds of pollinators. You can plant more flowers. Okay, we really don't need more grass. Okay, try to plant flowering plants that flower at different varieties that flower at different weeks of the season. So not like one flower that blooms for 1 week and that's all you have for the whole summer. Plant a variety of different types of vegetation that will continue to put out new and different types of flowers on a continuous basis. And that will help our pollination. For folks that live in New Jersey and travel the Garden State Parkway, people might have noticed long swaths of wildflowers that the state has planted over the last couple of years. So instead of planting more grass and having to mow grass, it's really enjoyable for people to ride along the Garden State Parkway and see long strips of wildflowers, and all the benefit to our pollinators to get to enjoy all that. We should be promoting planting all types of new flowers and vegetation to our garden clubs, to our groups, to educate people outside of our circle, inside and outside of our circles, how important pollinators are to the planet, not just for our own sustainability, but there's a lot of vegetative species that rely on insect pollinators for their own propagation. Okay, a lot of plants we need pollination from insects and pollinators to grow and pollinate and reproduce. So it's not even just for human food. It's for animals, it's for nature, and it's for other plants. So we need our pollinators, very important. When you have a question about pollinators, when you have questions about honeybees, butterflies, you're concerned about it, you can call up in New Jersey. We have a great agricultural community, extension community through the Rutgers program. Every county has, I believe, has a Rutgers agricultural center where you can get the number, call up, ask questions, find out what to do. Don't be so quick to pick up a can of pesticide, okay? We're all too reliant on just spraying things. We need to be educated to find better ways of handling our what we initially view as problems, to be educated about those and find out ways that we can protect the environment, protect our ecology, protect pollinators, which ultimately provides more sustainability for people. Okay, so plant more flowers. There's a chart shown on the screen. All these flowers are great for pollinators. Okay, moving along. A couple other things we can do. We can join a local beekeeping club. Okay, in New Jersey, we have the New Jersey Beekeepers Association. The website is www.njbeekeepers.org. Okay, I don't see it listed there, but we can get that to readers and viewers if it doesn't show up in another slide. www.njbeekeepers.org. Beekeepers is plural. Okay, New Jersey Beekeepers Association in New Jersey has 21 branches. A branch near you. In South Jersey area, we have the South Jersey Beekeepers Association. In Cape May County, we have the Jersey Cape Beekeepers Association. We have monthly meetings. People can come out and they can enjoy making friends at a beekeepers meeting, joining the local club and learning about pollinators and beekeeping, and maybe even become a beekeeper themselves. Okay, and joining a fun network of really great people that are concerned about the environment, about protecting the environment, about beekeeping and other natural pollinators and so forth. So you could join a beekeeping club in your area. There's lots of books to read. A good place to start is Beekeeping for Dummies, believe it or not. It's for $20. If you wanted to learn about beekeeping, it's an easy way. It's a shortcut. It's great for beginners, but it's also quite comprehensive. So it could get someone started on a beekeeping experience if they had, any interest in doing that. Okay. Okay. So there's lots of things we can do to promote and save and help our environment and our ecology. We just need to continue to spread the word and continue to become educated on it. Education is the key. Okay, questions, answers.
It looks like we answered all of the questions in the middle of the segment. And I think that we're about good. I can't help myself. I had to ask all the questions.
Oh, that's okay. We do a lot of farmers markets besides our honey shop that we have at our location on Delsea Drive at mile marker 10 in Cape May Courthouse area. We really enjoy the folks we meet at the farmers markets. We like to feel that we're educating people at the markets, not just spreading our products and selling honey, but educating people like we did today on your program, how important our environment is, how important our ecology is, and how important it is to protect our pollinators. So unless there's something else, I guess we could sort of sum things up.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so we have a lot of options. Our premier product is our wildflower honey.
That's my
Which you
favorite.
can find at WheatonArts Center. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to let you know that I was sharing all those links in the chat while we were doing this. So you can see the Rutgers extension link in there. And I actually noticed that they are having an online, or I think they are having an online program in November.
Great. That's great. And then the Jersey Cape Beekeepers Association has a educational program that's 10 weeks on Friday nights from February through March. I think maybe the beginning of April. You could go to the, on Facebook, you could go to Jersey Cape Beekeepers Association on Facebook, and you can ask there in the messages or in the box there when the next segment starts, the next class. And it's every Friday. It was for the last 10 years or so. We've had it every Friday night from 7 to 9. I believe it's 7 to 9. The hours might change slightly. And it's about becoming a new beekeeper. You don't have to get new honeybees. A lot of people just take the program to learn more about honeybees and pollination and so forth. However, it's a program that's designed so that if you wanted to become a beekeeper, you certainly can. And it walks through all the boxes that you would need, the equipment you would need, additional education that you would need, where to acquire the bees, and so forth. So it's a great program for folks that want to learn more about that. And that's February to March and April every year on Friday nights. Yep. And it's, you go to Jersey Cape Beekeepers Association and their Facebook page and ask there.
Well, thanks, Gary. And I'd just like to remind you that we have an expanded selection of honey in the cart that's available until Friday only. You can search Busy Bees to see the entire selection. And WheatonArts is offering 15% off of the pottery that is created by WheatonArts artists from the clay that is cultivated in southern New Jersey. You can see a video on this clay and the process at WheatonArts.org. And you can support not just WheatonArts, but the artists by checking out the pieces available and purchasing online. Both shipping and curbside pickup are available. And there will be a direct link in the chat box below. But just want to thank you again, Gary. It was such a pleasure.
This was a lot of fun. And for viewers that can't see my shirt, when you see our bees, this is us. Let's see here. The video was so slow here, I can't see, but this is us right here. The two bees.
Well, I wanted to make sure we put our contact slide up here and remind everyone how to get to your website at busybeesnj.com. Also your email, busybeesnj@yahoo.com. And as Sarah already did, remind everyone that in the general store this week, your honey, expanded selection of your honey is going to be available, and you can buy it online. And you can also reach Sarah at slacey@wheatonarts.org. And one more thing is that we'd like to hear from you. And if you could let us know what other programs you'd like to see at WheatonArts, contact me at mpeterson@wheatonarts.org. And again, thank you so much, Gary. This was quite a treat. It was wonderfully informative. I can't help but have a renewed respect for bees, and I'm craving real healthy local honey. There's nothing quite like it. My favorite is the wildflower, and then I think it's the bush bean, which I was surprised. Again, contact us. We'd love to hear from you. We'll also be able to provide a download of the chat and a clip a link to this recording.
That's great. Thank you, Marcy. Thank you, Sarah. This was a great experience, and thank you for all the viewers for joining in.
Yes, thank you so very much. Thank you both.